Today we're going to learn about i18n and l10n, or internationalization and localization. Internationalization is the process of setting up your application to actually allow localization, which is the translations of your website, to take place. Django has some great built-in tools for doing internationalization and localization by taking advantage of Unix's getText functionality and just bringing that straight into Django. Django's internationalization ability is highly extensible, but in this video we're going to take you through the basics of what you need to know to get started and probably get you about 85% of the way there, if not all the way there, depending on your needs. Like most Django applications, the first step to getting everything working is to modify the settings accordingly. In this case, it's actually fairly simple. We're going to set our language code to our default of EN for English. And then we're going to make sure that we have the locale middleware in our middleware classes. We're going to follow that up by going to the end and making sure use i18n is set to true and use l10n is set to true. And then we're going to follow that up by setting our locale durs. This is the location for Django to look for any type of localization that's been done and compiled. In this case, we're setting it to the locale folder of our base application. And with that, we're ready to move on to our URLs. Setting up and dealing with our URLs are actually very much simple. First thing we need to do is we need to import i18n patterns, and this is going to replace our normal patterns that we use from Django conf URLs. What this allows us to do is at the end of our basic URL, we can add EN for English, or JA for Japanese, or DE for German, whatever language translation that we want to use, and it automatically is taken care of for us by the Django application. So we need to import it and then just replace the word patterns in our URL patterns with i18n patterns. The key here is that we need to set this in the top level of our URLs and not worry about it in any other place in our included URLs. Now that all of our setup is taken care of, let's actually get into some code. This application is going to take suggestions for places to go in a local area. So if we'll take a look at our model, we can see that we have 4 specific things that we need: name, address, hours of operation, and the description. These are going to be saved to the database, and we're also going to create a model form based on this. With our model forms, we want to actually modify our labels, so we're going to use the labels property of our meta class. For each of our fields, we're going to define a custom piece of text, and we're going to use a function called uGetText. Or in our case, we're going to call uGetTextLazy, so it lazy loads the call to uGetText. When we do the import, we set it to an underscore so that we save space, and this is also kind of an idiom that we use in Django. To use uGetText, what we do is we underscore, and we call it as if it's a normal function, and pass it a string of what we want it to have. What this is going to do is it's going to go to our localization file. It's going to take that string and find it inside of our localized file, and then return the proper translation. So what you need to do in order to set everything up, anywhere you have strings in your application, you just wrap it in this underscore style function call that calls uGetText, and then that string is ready to be translated. There's another place that we would want strings to be translated that are going to basically be constant most of the time, and that's in our templates. In order to tell Django what needs to be translated, we can actually use a template tag called trans and then pass it the string that we want to use. We get this trans from a internationalization template module, and so we also need to load internationalization, or i18n. And then anywhere you want to translate a string of text into something else, you just again call the trans, like we did for trans suggestions and trans no content. Now that we have all of our code set up, we're actually ready to start doing our translation. The first step to this is to make sure that we have a locale folder, and then follow that up by generating a file that has all of our strings to be translated and a location to have those translations. To get this file, we're going to use the make messages management command, and we're going to use the all parameter to have it search through all of our code and all of our templates to pull out all of these strings that need to be translated. And then we're going to only specify the locale that we want to use. In this case, it'll be JA for Japanese. You can put whatever shortcode you want for the language specifically that you want to use. Depending on the size of your application, this could actually take a long time. In this case, since we only have like 6 things that we want to translate, it's fairly short. And what that does is that puts it in a locale folder under the shortcode for the language in an LC messages folder. So if we'll ls that, we'll have a django.po file. This is the actual file that we're going to edit to do our translation. Then if we'll open up that file, there's a lot of information in here that you can modify if you want, or you don't need to. If you'll scroll down a little bit, you'll see message ID. This is the actual string that we want to translate. And then below that is message str for the string of the translation that we're going to do. I've gone ahead and translated these into Japanese and put our Unicode characters in there for the Japanese. And then with that, it's actually done. So now that we have our translation done in our django.po file, it's actually time to convert this to the appropriate format. And to do that, we're going to college manage py and then use the compile messages command. This uses getText to compile this into a more binary format for us to use in our Django application. And with that, we're actually done with our translation of our website, and we're actually ready to start using it and see it working. So in our browser, if we'll go to our URL, if we go to /suggestions, and then we hit enter, it redirects us to a /en/suggestions. So since English is our default, then we need to actually manually switch over to Japanese. So if we change this to JA, we get our Japanese characters. Then if we go over to make, we'll get our Japanese again with our text boxes. And then jump over to EN, and we get our English. So everything here is translated into Japanese and in English. So this shows that our translations are working, and the translation is based on the prefix of JA or EN, which we get automatically switching from using our i18n patterns. And that's really it. That's all there is to our internationalization that we're going to do. So this should give you a good heads up and a good start to doing internationalization of your app.